Good day, everybody, and welcome to the House of Mario. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and thank you very much for tuning into this major show update. I just wanted to discuss what's been happening over 2022 and where the House of Mario is going to go next. Because for the longest time, even I didn't know where the show was going to go. So I'm excited to sit down and share with you guys what the future for the House of Mario is and where the content I create is going to be going forward. And I'm excited to say that because for the last few months, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, it's been a while, I didn't know what was on the cards for the House of Mario. And a lot of that comes down to just the recording schedules and everything lining up with my best friend, Bryce DeWitt. And, Bryce and I, we started the House of Mario in 2017 because whenever we catch up, all we talked about was video games and Nintendo. Our passions aligned. We love gaming and Nintendo and everything nerdy so much, and we still do. I think that's pretty evident. And I remember the first time trying to record a podcast before we did the House of Mario, and after a work day sharing, I was out of it. I'm like, I don't know, man. And we recorded it in the big echoey kitchen at my parents' place, and I never listened back to it, never put it anywhere. It never had a name. It was just a discussion recorded with Bryce. And I wish I had that somewhere. That'd be great to go back and listen to, actually. Really, actually, maybe not. It's definitely best left to the void on some hard drive somewhere. But, deciding, all right, let's do a proper podcast, coming up with a name. I remember going through so many names, and the House of Mario was actually the first name I wrote down. And the House of Mario is just a different word for Nintendo. A lot of articles used it back in the early 2010s. Instead of writing Nintendo, they said, the House of Mario, a bit like the House of Mouse for Disney. And, it all sort of started from there. I did some really shoddy work in paint.net. I just need some artwork, put it up there. Looks really shoddy, but it doesn't matter. Bryce and I are recording a show. Go to his place, iPad, a blue snowball in the middle of us. Do that through about 3 episodes until we decide, this is fun. We're enjoying it. Let's get some proper microphones. Let's do it properly. And the show went on there for, another 5 years. In May 2022, this year, we celebrated our 5th year anniversary. And it feels weird to say we've been doing it that long. I don't know. It feels like a long time. Because I guess it is, Bryce's baby girl is now not a baby girl. She's going to school and she's very interested in artwork and she's really developed into her own person. And it's just been absolutely beautiful to see. It really has. And just seeing other friends, through doing this show, it's been phenomenal, man. The House of Mario has been one of the best things I've done in my life. It really has. It's been a great time. But Bryce and I, we knew that 2022 was going to be a big hill for us to climb. For doing a weekly show, I think anyone that hasn't done this before, podcasting is pretty simple, but it's not just the talking. It's also just making it happen. It's the getting it on podcast feeds. It's also balancing it with kids. It's balancing it with family. It's balancing it with, just everything in life. And unfortunately, the podcast is the thing that comes last. As much as I'd love to go, look, I got to record the podcast, so work that makes me money, that pays my bills, just hold on. I'd love to do that because, podcasting gives me so much. It just gives me so much. That everything else just doesn't. It's really filled my tanks just creatively and socially, and it's been a fantastic thing for me. But like I said, 2022, we knew it was going to be a big hill to climb. I wasn't going to be as flexible as I was to facilitate Bryce's schedule, which was, it's a little bit strange because he's got 2 kids and both him and his partner also work hospitality and aged care. So that's a really tricky and weird schedule to line up with, as well as, now my son, who's almost 8 months old, and that's just going by so quickly. So we knew that was going to be hard. But also on top of that, I know that Bryce has also just, he's sort of just fallen out of love with, discussing, I guess, the gaming industry each week, which is fair enough, man. Like, if things change, it's been 5 years of discussing Nintendo news and covering the latest games and doing everything that, we've done on the show. We've had a lot of fun doing it. And ultimately, Bryce, his sort of philosophy for doing the show to this day is it's a great time to come over to Drew's place and catch up. And absolutely, man, that's a huge reason I do it as well. A massive reason. Catch up with Bryce once a week, it's been fantastic. And the fact that we've been able to do that for so many years has been a blessing. It's been so much fun. And we've facilitated, I guess a small audience on our podcast feed, which has been fantastic. People that have enjoyed our banter, our back and forth, our friendship, and become a part of that, become a housemate, and met other content creators at PAX and just listeners on Twitter and whatever. It's been a fantastic time. But yeah, with all that come and said, it's with great sadness to let you guys know that Bryce DeWitt will no longer be a main weekly host here at the House of Mario. And it feels really weird to say that. And I knew it was some, whether it's been 5 years, 10 years, whatever, not everything lasts forever and things change. And I've been able to come to terms with that because over the last, couple of months, Bryce hasn't been on. I'm like, well, I'm thinking about what the next step is just for my own sanity as far as keeping the ship running. And then there was a few months before that where he wasn't on. And ultimately, Bryce and I, we will podcast together. We're not going to never podcast together again. We're not going to stop creating content together. But I think just from my point of view, as far as doing these different shows together, I'm doing the House of Mario and Crackin' Furfies with a few other lads, friends of mine, and a Drew Story, which is an interview podcast and whatever. I think our energy would be best served to do something that, he will enjoy a little bit more. And it's interesting because it's like, well, why don't you just change the House of Mario to become just a free-flowing conversation? And while we could do that, it still wouldn't become a weekly or even fortnightly. We wouldn't be able to hit that consistency, we'd probably be looking for, which over the last 5 years as well. Like for me, I was the one who really put energy into the naming, the artwork, the editing of every episode, coming up with the skits when we did the skits, just putting everything into the show. And when you do something for that long and it really becomes a part of you, it becomes something really important. And I do not want to, see it sort of decline in that way. Just like, becoming an irregular show. You don't know when it's going to come out. And also when it goes like any less than fortnightly, it's no longer like a part of your routine, a part of your schedule. And I would love to be a part of your weekly routines or whatever, and have that back and forth and share a passion for gaming and cover the latest games and talk about what's going on. Because, for me, I still have that passion. I still want to talk about all the little nitty gritty Nintendo things that are going on, whether it's just Switch sales or, the Mario movie trailer that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks from recording this. Or I still love doing that. I still want to talk about that each week. And I think, Bryce has sort of just moved on a little bit from that. When he has time, when he wants to see his mate, he wants to catch up. So my idea for, doing content with Bryce is coming up with something new, or potentially just being a guest on, the House of Mario Encore or a Drew Story. He's more than welcome to come on to those guest shows that I run. Or we could start up something different, which is just like, we'll record when we record and it will go up when it goes up, but not something that I've been breaking my ass for the last 5 years. I don't want to see it, go to nothing. But also something I'd love to do, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while anyway, is just do like seasonal podcasts. there's podcasts out there that, talk about a certain topic and they've got a certain amount of episodes and it's evergreen and it goes up and you can listen to it the day it comes out or in 10 years time and it will still be relevant then. And I think Bryce and I will really thrive on that format of podcast creation where we can sit down, do a seasonal podcast, 10 episodes, 20 episodes, whatever it is, goes up as its own show. And it is what it is. And then the next year, look, we've got a couple of months where work isn't as busy. It's the winter time, for example. It's not shearing for me, and the hospitality industry isn't as busy for Bryce. Look, let's get out 20 episodes, and then that's our seasonal podcast. And I'd love to do that once a year. Just do these seasonal shows, whether they're covering certain video game franchises or whatever it is. I would love to do that. I've got some ideas that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Maybe a bit of a build up to the next Legend of Zelda game. That's an idea I've got in my head. But I think I'm really looking forward to that. So just the idea of shifting something that we've become familiar with the House of Mario and shaking things up again and doing something that might suit our busy lifestyles a little bit better. So definitely not the end of Bryce and I's podcasting careers together, but a big shift nevertheless. So I'm looking forward to that. Personally, I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing some more of that next year with Bryce and hopefully having him on as a guest. I've been wanting to have him on the House of... Oh, no. I've been wanting to have him on a Drew story for a long time just to talk about, all the friends he's made from MMOs and especially Final Fantasy 14 online. I've been really wanting him to tell those stories on that show, but having him on the House of Mario was hard enough. So freeing up our schedules a little bit more, I think would be a good thing, honestly. And we don't have to just worry about talking about the news or whatever. So I'm excited about that. Let me have a drink here. All right. So I guess you got the question as well. If you got this far, thank you very much. Look, I really do appreciate the time you give any of our content. So thank you very much. But the next question is, so what's next for the House of Mario? And this has been the biggest sort of weight on my mind for a long time. What I said earlier, just with the House of Mario being a big passion, like even a part of my identity at this point, where I love doing it so much and I've put a lot of work into it. I was torn what to do. I really was. Do I put it on hiatus and do I come back later to do it? Don't know. Do we just do it whenever, like I mentioned before? Do I find a different guest? Do I just cancel it because no one cares anyway? Or do I don't know. I was back and forth, and I was seriously at some points just like ready to be like, all right, it's done. Like the House of Mario is done. Because while it was great having, guests on like Seth, Josh filled in a couple of times. Absolutely love Josh. Obviously love everyone that comes on, but and Sean as well. Absolutely Josh, Sean and Seth. Amazing people, become really good friends of mine. And I don't know, in some ways, when I have guests on, I'd rather just all right, let's have, like I was talking with Bryce, let's just have the conversation to talk about a topic or a free flow conversation. I don't want to be like, all right, let's talk about the news, because a lot of the time, I don't know, I'd rather just talk to the people in some ways. So as far as, I guess, guest content, I'm going to be changing Encore at the House of Mario to a guest show format. And while a lot of the show at the moment has been a guest format, it was ultimately started to be just like a solo show where if I couldn't catch up with Bryce, I'd still have an outlet to put a podcast out that week. But what I quickly found as well is when the main show of the House of Mario wasn't being updated, then I wasn't that motivated to do any of my other shows, whether it was Crackin' Furfies or Encore at the House of Mario. The House of Mario, like a Nintendo podcast, the very first podcast we started was the heartbeat to everything I'd done with podcasting. So if that wasn't pumping along, nothing else was. And even when I was thinking about, stopping the House of Mario and putting my time and energy into other projects, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily how things are going to work out. If the House of Mario stops, I might just stop podcasting altogether, because, this is my baby. This is what started it all. And I've been listening to, a lot of content from Bobby, the Nintendo guru. I thought it was time to finally, hear his voice again after his untimely passing, because I needed some lessons from him that I had heard before, but I needed them to be refreshed. It's just, to work hard, obviously. Not too hard, though, because you've got some other things to manage, a kid and a wife. But also that don't let anything get too familiar or too easy, because that way, you'll just come stagnant. And that's a big reason why, I've made this decision with Bryce, just to change things up. So I'll be having guests on Encore at the House of Mario, including Bryce whenever he wants to come on, and changing the main show, the House of Mario Nintendo podcast, to a solo podcast. And that's a difficult decision for me to make, because I love solo podcasting. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think I can do a good solo show for even an hour to an hour and a half. And I think it's a lot of fun just to sit in front of this microphone and talk to you guys, and I don't know, hopefully hear something back. But if you don't, I understand why. You're doing your own thing. But I'm also nervous. I'm really nervous about it, because I don't want to burn the House of Mario to the ground. I know it's a completely different format, a completely different show, probably even a different audience to what's attracted to, two dudes talking Nintendo. And I completely understand if you're someone who isn't interested in that, or you're just here for Bryce, that, if we have to say goodbye to you, I want to thank you very much for your time and everything that you've done for us here at the House of Mario, even through just like a click here and there. It all makes the difference, since we are a small indie show. But yeah, I was just worried that would burn everything to the ground. But ultimately, I think just for my sanity or my creative output, I think this is the right decision. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that forever, for the next few months or whatever, until 2023. We might revise it at the start of next year, see how it's going, see how you guys are enjoying it or not enjoying it or whatever. But I've got some good ideas that I'm really looking forward to implementing with the show, as well as stepping up the quality as far as video goes. I've got an animation for the intro in the works at the moment from somebody I've commissioned. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that, as well as just doing other editing stuff for the video version. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think if I'm having fun doing it, and we've got a decent amount of the audience that's listening to it and enjoying it, I think that's a win. But it's definitely going to be an experimental sort of period for the House of Mario, because in the next week or so, we're going to be going to PAX Australia. We're going to be covering stuff at PAX. Going to be recording an episode at the Audio Technica booth. Thank you very much to Brendan White for booking me in for that. Really appreciate it. So we're going to be covering PAX, and there's going to be lots of games that are going to be coming out in the next couple of months, with like Bayonetta and Mario Plus Rabbids and Pokemon, and there's going to be a lot to cover, and it's going to be pretty wild. But I'm excited and nervous about it all, and I hope for the most part, you're along for the ride. You give it a chance, and while it might be different to what you would expect from other Nintendo shows or even our show in the past, where it is two people discussing games, I just want to put it out there that I will bring the best show that I can possibly do each week. Hit Tuesday, 6:00 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time, whatever the time that is in the world for you. And I'll deliver the best show that I can. And we'll start off just with the same format we've got for the show at the moment and that I've done in the past. Start off with Guru Geek Out, talking about positivity and shout outs and all of that, sharing the love that Nintendo Guru put out there in the past with his shows on If We Ran Nintendo and A Cup of Joe and Nintendo with Sean Capri. And, talking about the news, the big stories, the small stories, Reggie's Rec Room. We'll have a discussion each week about a certain topic. The first topic I want to actually cover is, why I got into Nintendo podcasting. Start off the episode just really talking about why I do this and why I have the passion to keep driving forward even 5 years later. And I want to really sort of bring in you guys as well, the community, because, when we started, obviously we started from scratch. We had no one listening to us, nothing at all. So trying to get questions like you might expect the big boys, like listen to most of the shows you listen to, you're probably like, oh, look, we got some questions. But here at the House of Mario, it's pretty hard to get questions because no one wants to ask you anything because you're a small show or whatever. But I would like to start implementing more questions into the show. And however I can do this, I'd love to do like call-ins, have a segment where you can call into the show, ask questions and all that, and have it like a dynamic show that whether I record it on Twitch or do it on, I don't know, there's an app called Clubhouse where people can easily like chime in and out of podcasts and you can do call-in shows, or whether I do it live in the Discord at House of Mario, you could probably do it like that too. There's lots of ways we can implement that. So yeah, it feels good to get that off my chest finally. Because it has been rough just in my head. I'm sure people might look at their podcast feed and not think about it too much, but every week that I missed, maybe the last couple of weeks, or every week I'm like, oh, got to find a guest or someone to talk to me or do a solo show. There's been anxiety, there's been guilt there, but I think starting next week we can sort of have a bit of a fresh start and keep things going and see where it goes from there. So any support if you guys want to, show the show, whether you want to share it or let me know what you think about the updates, let me know at iDruby on Twitter. I appreciate every single person listening to this. I really do. It means the world to me. So I'll see you next week at the House of Mario. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to this 22 minutes. I'll catch you later. Oh, and we have a few changes coming to like the overall sort of branding of our I guess podcast network, you could say. I think I've decided to call it iDruby Studios. All the shows and that I'm doing, including on YouTube. So I've got like a bit of a logo and waiting for a bit of a photo shoot at the moment to get some photos taken. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the branding and everything looks like, and I don't know. I'm pretty hopeful as far as things are going into the future. But anyway, I'll catch you later. So the doors are closed. I'll see you next week. See you guys. The House of Mario, a Nintendo podcast, is lovingly crafted and recorded in the southeast of South Australia. The show is produced and hosted by me, Drew Agnew, and my co-host is Bryce DeWitt. If you enjoy my work here and on my other podcasts, Encore at the House of Mario, A Drew Story, and Crackin' Furfies, help spread the word by sharing us with a mate or leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you would like the show further support and help me achieve my goal of freeing up one working day a week to spend more time refining and creating podcasts, please consider checking out patreon.com/iDruby, where for only $1 you get access to my secret recordings, where I share everything behind the scenes. A big thank you to the legend DJ for supporting the content at the podcast producer level on Patreon. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.